Hey, my name is Wayne Botha. In this video you will learn tips to successfully lead integrated waterfall and agile projects in today's complex environments. Let's get into it. A problem that many release train engineers and program leaders are dealing with right now is that Fortune 50 companies are in a transition phase between a purely waterfall methodology and a purely scaled agile methodology. And as a release train engineer with experience in Fortune 50 companies, there's a challenge in integrating those two methodologies. The problem is that you've got completely different language and terminology and approaches in waterfall and different languages and terminology in scaled agile. So for this video, we'll use a common scenario that release train engineers are dealing with right now. You might have 10 Scrum teams assigned to your Agile release train. Some are on waterfall timelines, and some are transitioning over to Agile or purely Agile, and some specialists that you need on your program, such as firewall experts or cloud specialists, are only available on demand. So I've delivered projects as a release train engineer and program lead in the waterfall and Agile methodologies and in the integrated environments, and I'll gladly share my learnings with you. Many executives are used to seeing a schedule for a project laid out in a traditional waterfall method, starting at the requirements and the design through testing and so on. Now, the terminology that executives are used to are things like schedule, percent complete, estimated time to complete, earned value, and so on. Now, in contrast, when you get to Agile, there's completely different terminology and language. And I found that in Fortune 50 companies, many executives don't understand this picture or how this translates to the world that they know of waterfall methodologies. And so terminology in the scaled agile world of sprint planning, system demos, ceremonies, backlogs, art syncs, and so on are not familiar terms to many people. As a release train engineer, I found that the best way to handle these situations is to step in almost as a translator between the two approaches of waterfall and agile. Let me share my tips from the trenches, having led programs in Fortune 50 companies from waterfall, agile, and combined methodologies. Number one, communication. This is very similar to the agile principle number 6, where the most effective and efficient communication is accomplished by face-to-face meetings with the various stakeholders. So I'm not talking here about sending emails out to large groups of people. This communication that I'm referring to here is a release train engineer meeting with each of your Scrum leads and building relationships so that the Scrum leads can help you communicate effectively across these two methodologies. So number two, I rely on my team leads. In these projects that have got waterfall and agile methodologies, it's critical to have your team leads understand the dependencies and have them help to bridge the gap between these two methodologies. Number three, get people on a call for integration points. In scaled agile, we've got the release train sync meetings, and I found that using that same concept, you can integrate the waterfall and agile methodologies by getting your team leads from the waterfall parts of the project on a call with the Scrum Masters and product owners, and specifically the agenda is to talk about the integration for the upcoming few weeks. For example, what will the waterfall team need next Wednesday, and is that in the correct priority for the Scrum teams? And what will the waterfall team need at the end of the month, and is that deliverable or feature in the backlog in the correct priority on the agile teams? That communication is best done through a meeting every week to sync up the various parts of the program. So tip number 4, what takes higher priority? When you've got a program that is running partially waterfall and partially agile, I found that the waterfall portion usually takes priority. And so many companies are running mainframes that have a certain scheduled downtime. For example, the release must be done on the third Sunday of the month because that's when the scheduled downtime is. Well, so if that is the case, then your Agile teams need to provide the appropriate deliverables on time for integrated testing for the mainframe systems to have the right deadlines. And so on a project where you've got Waterfall and you've got Agile, one of them needs to take priority and the other teams need to fit in to match that deadline. On your programs, which takes priority, Waterfall systems or the Agile systems? It's important to clarify that. Tip number 5, publish a weekly look ahead email. Now, with all the communications that happen in a large company, it's easy to forget what the exact details are for the upcoming week. My team leads have told me that it's very helpful to get an email on Friday which simply outlines the top 3 priorities for the following week and the top 3 priorities for the week after that. Okay, so let's wrap up these few tips. Your takeaway is to focus on delivering the project. Don't let methodology get in the way. Too often I've seen project managers worried about checking the boxes, or Scrum Masters focused on the minutiae of scaled Agile at the expense of delivering the overall project. So your takeaway is focus on delivering the project, pull approaches from either Waterfall or Agile, put them together and deliver the project without letting the methodology get in the way. I trust that this has been helpful to you. Thank you for your time.